thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to have the opportunity to interview Scarlett Vogel from New York Life Insurance Company. She does a lot of work in financial planning and mutual funds and asset management and all sorts of really cool things that I'm sure she will correct me and explain a little bit better in a moment. But I think it's really important to have her on here because even though we spend so much time talking about ways to be healthy, how to exercise, how to eat right, how to deal with our stress, if our financial picture, if our financial outlook is out of control, that could have an impact on our health too. It can have an impact on decisions that we make when it comes to taking care of our health. It can have an impact on our stress levels because of the stress that we're under because of financial trouble. So Scarlett is a person who can help with that. And so we're going to spend some time in the context of this video. She's going to help us with some of that right here. And I encourage you, if you want to take a step further, she is someone who could really provide some good personal financial counseling. She's helped me out over the years, and I know she could do the same for you. Scarlett, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business?
Yes, I was always a person who enjoyed a good numbers puzzle. So when I came into New York Life, which was 16 years ago, first I came in as an agent, which most people do. That's the track that most people take, is they come in under the insurance side. Later on, I got licensed to do mutual funds, and then later on still be full-fledged financial advisor. I absolutely positively love helping people. And what I discovered very early on is that most people just are not naturally inclined to want to figure out their own budget and figure out their own numbers puzzle. So that's where I come into play.
You are right about that. I think that is something that comes naturally to some and not to others. I'm not sure. I love numbers, but sometimes that planning aspect of those numbers can elude me a little bit. And so that is something that's really important to me, and I sure appreciate that. And I'm sure it's important to a lot of people. Can you share some of the common financial challenges that individuals and families face today?
The most common one I'm seeing right now, so the most timely, is inflation. This is the first time a lot of our people who are in their working careers right now have really had to face serious inflation. And a lot of them, the pace of their wages increasing is not the same as the increase in their bills or they're seeing in the inflation. And so it can really squeeze their budgets. So I've had a lot of challenges recently with my clients trying to figure out how to basically manipulate that budget and squeeze in everything they need to.
I think over the years, I've never really understood what inflation even was, but we definitely are seeing the impact now with what seems like prices of everything going up. What would be your basic definition of what inflation is and how it's affecting us today?
Just the price of goods increasing is basically what you need to spend for the same thing that you got yesterday is higher today than it was. So that's the pace of inflation. And you are seeing it real time. Like I said, our families, their budgets just for basic expenses. And it's everything from their utility bills to the cost of gasoline is obviously a huge one right now, but the grocery store. I personally am spending more on groceries than I have ever spent.
I have teenage and young adult children who are getting ready to get out and start life on their own. And it's amazing. My wife tends to have lots of conversations with them about, do you have any idea how much some of these things cost? And it's surprising just the way simple things like groceries, the price of eggs, the price of things that we don't see change much are changing so much. So people are dealing with inflation because of that. They've got to figure out how to manage things better. What are typical I don't know, strategies or basic strategies or tips that you'd recommend for handling personal finances effectively?
Everyone who comes to me, the first thing is the budget. We have got to get a really accurate picture of the budget. And that in itself right now is a bit of a challenge because inflation is happening rapidly. So our budget from yesterday might be a little bit out of date today. And so it's something that it's a working document, and you have to know that it's going to evolve, it's going to change. We have to keep it up to date. But most of my people who come to me, they don't even have a working budget. Most of them, if they do, they forget a very big factor like food. And so it's one of those things that you really have to have not only your actual bills that you send to a company, but what you spend on a regular basis for these different things in your life. And you want to make sure it includes the food and the entertainment and the things that maybe you don't have a set amount for, but you have a range.
Mm-hmm.
After
Yeah.
that, they definitely need an emergency fund, especially in this day and age. If the economy is going through changes, you really want to have an emergency fund in place in case something happens with a job. So we commonly tell people 3 to 6 months is generally what you want for your emergency fund. And then, of course, if you have retirement plans at work, are you maximizing those?
So we're talking about one, you mentioned having a budget and really going through the different things that you're spending money on. So looking at bills, looking at what you're actually paying for. And then there might be things that aren't bills, but you still spend money on them, like entertainment and, I don't know, going out to eat or clothes, those kinds of things maybe, that need to be included in that so you have an accurate picture.
Correct.
And then an emergency fund and making sure that we're maximizing retirement
Mhm.
as well. Did I get all of them there, or the
Yeah, if you
basics?
have savings goals, if you've got a specific thing that you're saving for, you want to make sure that you set somewhere in the budget how that's going to automatically fund for those
Oh,
goals. So we
okay.
can talk about that a little bit more if you'd like, but I feel like setting up those auto triggers in your bank account or your credit union, whatever you use, is really helpful to get towards a goal quickly.
Okay, so you mentioned auto triggers.
Mhm.
Explain that because that sounds really interesting.
So most credit unions, bank accounts, they have where you can do auto transfer. So most people just have direct deposit from their paycheck into their regular checking, but then they never move the money anywhere else. So say for instance, you have a paycheck that comes in 2 times a month, you could automatically have a transfer set up so that part of it goes to savings or part of it goes to an account that maybe you're building a nest egg for a house or whatever your goal is. You can set those things up within your bank so that just like auto bill pay, you're paying yourself first.
That's fantastic. Next question. How can having a well organized budget, how does that, how just in the long run, how will that affect a person's financial well being?
It's absolutely huge. If I could tell you how rewarding it is to see a person who comes in who's completely overwhelmed by their finance, overwhelmed by debt, possibly, or just the burden of it. And to see the change when they actually take control of their budget, they know what money they have coming in, what they're saving towards, what they're doing, and just see the stress fall off of them. It's absolutely huge. It's one of those scary unknowns, and then it goes to being known and well in control.
Are there any common misconceptions or myths about financial planning that you run into?
Most people just think they can't afford it. When I talk to people, they're always really worried about how much it's going to cost them. Do they have enough money to utilize my services? Financial planning is for everyone. I feel like a lot of people have this idea that it's only for people who have massive amounts of wealth, but that's simply not true. Obviously, financial planners are just like coaches. So most people need a coach.
It clearly seems everyone, whether you have a little or a lot, would benefit from learning how to use that as effectively as possible. So,
I,
so
I agree
oh,
with that. Yeah. It's certainly something that obviously over the years I've had to come to you many times when I've messed up my structure. And so if I didn't have an expert to go to help me with that, I would still be walking very crooked.
You're right. I think anything that you want to be good at or anything that you want to have working better in your life than it is right now, having some outside help to be able to accomplish that is important, especially with our finances. And so now we're going to dig into a little bit, I don't know, like finances and our health. I think handling our finances can improve health. How would that happen? What do you think?
I think just the stress level, we talked about that a little bit already, but it's just unknown. Most people literally come to me and they're afraid to open their statements. They're afraid of their finances. And that's a really heavy burden. It's the big, scary, dark room. And if you shine a flashlight in there, there's nothing really to be afraid of. And it is exactly the same with your finances. I feel like there's so much unknown with people. And for whatever reason, people are a little hesitant to reach out and ask an expert for help, but there's no reason to be hesitant.
Absolutely. It can have such a great impact on keeping those stress levels down. All right. So, if we're going to start handling our finances, we need to do things like, sounds like maybe setting some goals. You had mentioned that. So, can you explain some of the importance of setting financial goals and then how they contribute to your long term financial success?
Yes. I feel as adults, we get in our pattern with our job and our routine, and we forget to daydream. So, one of my biggest challenges, believe it or not, with my client is to try to teach them to daydream again. They need to have a picture of what they want in 10 years or what they want in retirement. And they really have to have that kind of defined, because if it's going to motivate them to save, if it's going to motivate them to, okay, I do want to grow this money as opposed to blow it on something this shiny and pretty right now, then it has to be a strong enough picture. They have to want it more. So it's one of those things that we really do have to daydream. And that's where your goal setting comes into play. I work with people all the time who just, they're saving for something, but they don't really know what, and therefore they're unattached to it. And if something comes along like a pretty shiny boat, they might just buy it because why?
I wonder if people today, and I'm just going to use myself for example, there are points in my life where I might feel like I'm just living day to day. Like I'm just trying to make sure that I handle Tuesday really well. And then tomorrow I'll make sure that I'm handling Wednesday really well. And where that can be effective in some ways, staying in that present moment, we do have to take some time to step away from that and look at a bigger picture and have some goals and have some dreams and have something that we're looking forward to. It seems like having that does give you an opportunity to be more successful with the planning that you make financially.
It's a balance, just like everything. And I know that term is so overused, but just like everything else, you have to balance what you're going to enjoy today with your kids when they're young, and then what you're going to put away for maybe their future, and then what you're going to put away for your future. And it's definitely a balance. And I'm not saying that every penny has to go into long term savings, but you have to know what you want to have. What is that retirement picture? If it's something you're going to have to work hard towards, then we have to start somewhere.
You're right about that. Are there any specific like financial habits or behaviors that people should be aware of in order to get to that point of financial stability?
We already talked a little bit about paying yourself first. We advisors use that term a lot, and it just basically means that make sure that you're saving for yourself before you spend all your money. Like I mentioned, those automatic transfers in the bank can really help you with that. But also, I see the common behavior with my clients who've been really successful, and they really live comfortably. They don't deny themselves, but not necessarily lavishly. So, what I mean by that is if they're going to buy an automobile, they're going to save and afford that automobile, not necessarily finance and pay debt on the automobile.
That's a really good habit. What are some options for people who might be struggling with their debt or financial difficulties? If they're already in that position where they're struggling, what do they do to get out of it?
First of all, digging out of it is one of those things that teaches you so many things, and it's absolutely doable. And that's the first thing I would say is that if you go and you really scrutinize that budget, you're going to find things within your budget where, okay, my money's going here, but I'm not seeing any benefit. I could pay down towards this debt with that money. I always pick on the gym membership that you might not be using or the storage unit. Oh my goodness, the storage units. Those are really good areas to find money in your budget that you're already spending and perhaps either pay down debt or save it. Now, you can also negotiate with creditors. A lot of people do not ever try. You can certainly call the creditors, you can call the credit cards or the bank or whoever it is and work out a system with them. They will negotiate with you. They do want to work with you. I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do that.
And so that's an interesting question. When you're doing something like negotiating with a creditor, what are you negotiating exactly?
A lot of times it's that payment. People get those bills and they have a minimum payment and that's all they ever pay. If they worked out a little bit of a payment schedule with the creditor, then they could actually make more headway against the principal and therefore pay it down quicker. So a lot of times it's the actual amount that you're paying, it's the term. Sometimes you can consolidate some of your loans. There are credit card companies that offer lower interest rates or even 0% for a period of time. And so you can look in with them, look through those and figure out what might work for you.
That's fantastic. Can you provide some insights on the role of insurance in financial planning and how it can provide security for individuals and families?
Yes, insurance is absolutely pivotal if you have anyone counting on you. So that's most of us. So if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, if you have children, most of us have someone counting on us. And if
Yeah.
something were to ever happen, obviously you need to make sure that you have your obligation to those people taken care of. So insurance is extremely pivotal. I would not own my home without having homeowners insurance. So I have an obligation to my husband. I have life insurance, all those sorts of things. But it is something that it's the protection that you need. You have to protect what you've already built before you can build more.
That's fantastic. Scarlett, in this short period of time, you have taught us a lot of things. And we're going to keep going here in just a little bit. And I really appreciate this. And one thing that I think is important when we're going over, as we're going through this interview, I'm thankful to be able to give our community of people that like to watch these something that they can actively start using now to make themselves better, to make themselves healthier, to make themselves today more financially fit, that maybe can help them to reduce stress. You are helping them with that here today, and I appreciate that. We'll probably get into this a little bit more later, but I do just want to make sure if someone decides that they want to contact you and get a hold of you for financial planning, for the services that you provide, what's the way to do that? What's the most optimal way to do that?
They can reach out to me via email or cell phone. Either is fine. We can list that information down below, but they can either just directly email me. I'd be happy to chat with them via phone or email, whatever they prefer, and we can set up a time. A consultation is always free to come in and just talk to me and see, hey, is this something that we mesh and we would be a good fit?
That sounds great. All right. So now we're going to go through the lightning round of questions. I want to dig in just a little bit deeper and get to know you and give our community a chance to get to know you just a little bit better. Get ready. I'm going to ask some questions. They're pretty simple, and we'll just see what we get here. Question number 1, early bird or night owl?
Oh, early bird. I wake up at about 3:45 in the morning. I do not know why.
Oh.
I do fall asleep at about 8 o'clock at night.
That makes sense. They both go hand in hand very well. You still get enough sleep. My
I do.
wife and I make fun of each other because of how early we go to bed and how early we wake up. So I guess we're in the same boat there. Next, coffee or tea?
Technically, both. I have to have a double espresso in the morning. And this time of year, it's very hot. So I like my iced tea. And the winter, it's hot tea.
Nice. Very nice. I'm a coffee person. My wife is a tea person. Yoga or running?
Oh my gosh, my running days are over. Yoga for sure. I'm not running unless you're chasing me.
All right. I'll try not to chase you. Juice cleanse or keto diet?
Years ago, I did tons of juice cleanses, but I'm a plant based eater. And so I mostly just try to stick to that.
All right. So then I think you've answered my vegan or carnivore question. All right. Weights or cardio?
Okay, I'm aware I need to lift weights. It used to be cardio, but now I'm aware that you're supposed to start adding weights. I have not yet.
All right. Salt or sugar?
Both.
Yeah.
Salted caramel is the best flavor ever. Why would you limit that?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that is. I wish I didn't love sugar as much as I did. Great. Home cooked or takeout?
Home cooked.
Awesome. Outdoor activity or gym workout?
We have property, so most of our stuff ends up being outdoor, but I've never really been a gym person. I'm not good at the gym.
Yeah. Walking around a bunch of sweaty people. I can see. That's all right. Sorry. Let's keep going. Meditation or high intensity training?
Meditation, again, that's something that comes as you get a little bit older. You're like, no more high intensity. Let's just try to calm down.
I think, Scarlett, you're a little too young to be talking about all these things that you do as you get older, but sauna or ice bath?
Oh, God. I live in Arizona. Why would you go into a sauna?
Yeah.
No, we do not need saunas in Arizona. We can just go outside. And an ice bath sounds awful.
It's hard to imagine any of those being all that comfortable.
No,
I like
no, I
the
don't.
idea of the ice bath, but I'm sure once I get into it, that won't be very fun. All right. Smoothie or protein shake?
I have a fruit smoothie with protein in the morning. So I don't believe you have to
Oh,
limit that.
wow. You are so well rounded. Water, flat, fizzy, or flavored?
Most of the time it's just flat. I like a fizzy water once in a while.
All right. Last thing. Most underrated wellness habit.
Breathing.
Awesome. That's very good. It is underrated because most people don't even think about it. That's even a thing that you need to consider, and we need to do it to live. And there are effective ways to be able to do it so that we can be healthier. That's very good. Scarlett, this was tremendous. I appreciate you. I thank you for coming out and doing this. I think this information that you have given today on financial management, on budgeting, on setting up emergency funds, on stress relief, on automated savings, all the things that we've talked about today are very valuable for our people, and I appreciate that. Scarlett is at New York Life, and we're going to have her phone number and email address listed underneath this video in the description somewhere so that you can contact her for a more personalized approach to your finances. Set up a plans, make some goals, move yourself towards that financial freedom and stress relief that we're all looking for. Thank you so much, Scarlett. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.